May as well turn the whole thing on. Everybody, the whole thing. Let's see. See if we can turn the whole thing on. May as well. I have one thing on. Might as well turn the other on. So I guess it'll be more than zero. What a night, everybody. What a night. Let me make sure this is down. Nope. Let's see. There we go. You guys don't want to hear that thing. This is weird. I'm not in the normal place and I can hear myself talking. This is strange. Weird. Oh, goodness gracious. Come on, I do this. Okay. Stand by, guys. I'm just opening up a window. Another one to add to the collection, I see. Come on, AI, let it loose. Stop doing that. I'm glad, CoT, we wrote our own AI. That's a big deal for us. So we don't have to mess with anything else. Of course, it is somewhat odd, strange that the, let me adjust this. All right, everybody's on. Everything should be on, right? Everything should be on. This is one of those impromptu type things here. Just an impromptu type thing. No, but I know you guys are looking at the markets and people are having conniption fits and everything else right now, right? But we did go over this. When was that? Thursday night? Wednesday? When did we go over this? Yesterday? Friday? Yesterday. That's what it was. We did. We did. And for some reason, this system is not responding. Go figure. Go figure. Not responding, not responding. That's so weird. It's very odd. You know, I'm convinced that something is really attempting to work against me, and I guess it should be expected. Actually, I was going to put a tracer on IP traffic to this. I don't want to do it because there's lots of attempts. And, you know, sometimes when you look into attacks against you, it can compromise you, right? I certainly don't want to be compromised, and I don't have a habit of feeding whatever things against me. Try not to get in the habit of that, because if that starts, I really don't. I teach against that, right? I do teach against it. I do not believe in half the aggression I see. And so that would be a good idea. Waiting on a few things to connect here, everybody. This is impromptu. This is spare the moment. I did this. I'm doing this because people are having issues. They probably don't understand what's happening in the markets. I will tell you guys a little bit. It will not align with what you are used to hearing. It means two things. Do me a favor. Don't take what I tell you and compare it to what somebody else did and throw them under the bus out of any type of don't pick a side, right? What I tell you from a very peculiar perspective, and what everybody else does. You know, you have experts out there in the financial fields, and I give hints every so often. And sometimes those hints are, don't know. A good friend of mine, right? We that I've known for many years. They say I'm a good guesser. He says you're a good guesser. 98% of the time is what he says. You're a good guesser. So let's leave it at that. A good guess. And if you guys were here Friday, I mentioned a date and a time to you all, and something happened because someone said something about the crypto markets Friday. And of course, I said they were going to, go down to the levels they were in July 4th at about 6 p.m., right? Probably about that number or $4,000 lower. So that puts what, Bitcoin around what, pretty low number, right? Of course, they thought it was nuts until today came, right? And here we are. But what you see in the markets, all of you should be quite familiar with. Most people who know about finances, they know about finances on the surface level, design level, operational level, right? So they have these financial advisors and people like that. They have good advice for you when you're in that system. What I'm about to tell you is not in the system. It's behind the system, around the system, what powers the system, okay? Not the work within the system. That's why I can make good guesses, right, at certain levels of financial drops, financial gains, so on and so forth, because I'm not looking inside the system. I'm looking outside the system. I'm looking at the motivations for the system. And once you know what that system is, your brain reprograms itself to see it in a very different light. If you think about finances, period, all of us are in this world, right? You're in this world. You have to live in some type of shelter. You have to wear clothes, right? But mankind made those clothes. Mankind made the shelters, right? So you have to live in something that protects you from the elements. It just so happens man created houses and housing. You have to travel. Mankind created cars. We use these things every single day. And so people utilize the inventions of others to enhance their own lives. Money is a man-made system. Money did not come from heaven. Money is a man-made system. It is the system that governs. Well, it used to govern. A representation of trade is at its base layer, but all that's changed, kind of like politics, right? Democrat, Republican. You guys ever hear the big switch? You ever hear that? That's when the role of Democrats and Republicans reversed back in the 60s. You guys remember that? It was because it was the Democrats largely responsible for some very awful things back in the past, not the Republicans. And of course, they bring up the big switch. That was a switch because we live in a modern day world, right? So most things have switched, just like the financial system. It still is something that governs the trade of, things from people to people, company to people, right? But at its heart, when you have people who have very complex minds and they like power, they're going to utilize systems like that for leverage. They're going to control anybody who has money is controlled because of that money. Here's what I mean by that. They can govern you. They can limit you. They can enhance you, right? And those who have power to govern certain systems within the system, well, they have control over everybody else. Whether a person realizes that or not, they can inhibit you from doing anything. They can enable you to do everything. That's what money is. Those experts, they study the various systems and methods of trade inside of the system. I look outside the system. That's what I do. I look outside the system. What the system is for, what's happening with the system, what are people doing with that responsibility of knowing how the system works? What are the future trends of the system itself? Now, all of you are believers in Christ, so you know that the mark of the beast is coming. In order to exercise that type of power, that type of governorship over such a large system, it must be changed. It must be altered so that it can be controlled by a dozen people, by a single operator, right? Whatever word you want to use. But it's being altered slowly but surely. And most things happen with your help. And for the most part, because you did not know it, people have been helping refine a system of control beyond anything anybody could have ever imagined. Right now, the system is being reformatted. Levels are being brought down, as we discussed last week. They're being brought down low for entry of certain vessels, you could say, right? Crypto and the entire system of crypto is a very important system in the world to come. Very important. We had a discussion about this not more than, a couple days ago. Crypto is a system that people, ordinary people, can utilize. People have been made quite wealthy from crypto. Real money from crypto, right? And in order to have a system that controls everybody, you cannot allow a person to wield the power of that system if they're not in your club. They can't afford to do that, right? You can't afford for somebody to be rich who does not agree with your way of life. You can't do that. So how do you take a system that's made by civilians, a system that's been implemented, it's an ingenious system. How do you take that system that's causing the average person to be wealthy, somebody who could never be wealthy, and it's making them, millionaires? How do you take that system and take full control over that system? Well, your first steps are to buy into it. You study it. You try and cripple it. For the last 3 years, they have been trying to cripple the crypto system, and they could not do it. Do you guys know that? They've been trying to cripple it. Doesn't work. They can't cripple it, right? When that failed, they tried to somehow get into the system and govern pieces of that system or have control over recipients of that system. That didn't work either. Didn't work. So they applauded that system. They said, well, we'll just take the whole thing. And so the process began. Now, with all these switches, I'm not giving away every name because that would cause a ruckus. But let's just say that some very wealthy people have been complicit with what's coming. They want a piece of that pie. You take a system like that and the architecture of that system, and you employ it all over the world. That's a brand new system, right? Most countries are utilizing crypto. Germany is paying bills with crypto. Russia is paying bills with crypto, right? China has crypto, right? All these countries have crypto. The USA has a lot of crypto, right? Lots of crypto. So with all this crypto and with all these countries utilizing their crypto, you already have the people who have bought into it, which means they have given real money for crypto, and that exchange of money. Some countries, it is their base economic tool set now. It is. Now, when those countries got in place, listen to me carefully, when they put billions of dollars in crypto, not millions, but billions of dollars in crypto, they didn't realize how complicit some of these billionaires were with that system. And so there are several corporations who started buying up Bitcoin, lots and lots of Bitcoin, buying up companies who managed Bitcoin, right? I mean, they were buying it on the front end and on the back end and on the even the underside, right, where Ethereum and all those things lie. They did this so they could have that system. To have that system, you buy into the majority of that system. You're rich, right? So you can buy as much Bitcoin as you want. That's exactly what they did, even at a loss. When they bought the Bitcoin, all of you should have noticed some weird ups and downs in the market. Weird. Late night ups and downs, right? at very strategic intervals based on the price of whatever was out there, that price index. But in other words, your standard stock market tool set, right? The configurations when reading a chart were not working with Bitcoin. Bitcoin defined any forecasting based on those charts. And so these big companies buy in, and anytime they want a little more, what do? Now, they know the price. Listen to me carefully. How they got in was pretty slick. They bought crypto at a high price. They didn't buy crypto when it was, 13,000 a coin. They bought Bitcoin when it was 55,000 and up. They buy into Bitcoin. Then late at night, you should have noticed drops. Like it would just fall off from 55 to 50, 54, 53, and they go right back up a little later. This happened every single night. Every night. Once you start analyzing the 4-hour, at 4-hour intervals, that chart, and if you knew about programming, you could plot that chart and go back and pick out patterns. You see these patterns, right? I do a lot of analytical mining with data and charts and things of that nature. See, computers can see charts now. And so with programming, you can actually make a computer do anything you want to with a chart. You can read charts all the way back to the 60s if you wanted it to, right? And it will give you a pretty good idea of what's happening. And from that point, you can zoom in to see what's happening. So these companies would buy in. Then they would sell off late at night, liquidate whoever bought in at that price, go and buy up, right, some more. Because now you have liquidations. Then you have overruns in these companies. Anyway, they kept doing this, and they kept building up how much Bitcoin they had until they grew to a specific point of control, and they can do whatever they want with the money, correct? Whatever they want. And so if they wanted to level, as soon as you guys heard from the politicians, you heard something last week, at the beginning of last week, you should have heard something through politicians, and they said, well, you ought to, restart Bitcoin, is what they said. Did you guys hear it? You didn't hear it? You didn't hear that come from all politicians? Reset it is what they were. You ought to, reset it. Level the playing field, they said. So they did so. Now, while they're playing with the top and captured people's attention in politics with the top so they can attribute that to politics, that's not what it is. Before 2025, everything on Earth is going to be tokenized. And what that means is everything is going to have a designated price. Even a tree, a blade of grass, a rock, the land, all land. There will be no land on Earth that's not tokenized. Now, in order for it to be tokenized, right, everything had to be surveyed. There were surveyors all over the place this year. Because everything is surveyed, everything has a designated price. You need buyers and a system of who you're going to allocate that to, right? That's already done. So they're taking the crypto system. They're going to tokenize everything, and that will be incorporated, utilized. Just like the crypto system is laid out, it reaches all over the world. That entire system is going to be the first highway of the beast system. It has to do with much more than money. You're talking about communication all over the world through a network that is unbelievable. And its resiliency is amazing, right? So you think you're talking about something that's not run by some central computer, too. So they essentially took a very complicated system, usurped it, and it's going to be part of the key component in a brand new financial system that won't fail. Where, listen to me, where a dozen people have full control. And of course, that doesn't, people can easily be replaced by computer nodes, and thus one person can have control. AI assist can have control, right? So that's why you're going to see other things happen to kind of kick out the small guy. Listen, this is about, as I said before, crypto was made by civilians. That means anybody out there can become rich with crypto. You can't have that in a control system. Even the beast system would not work if anybody could have money. So they can't do that. They've got to know who has the money and who does not. They've got to be able to control who can have money and who cannot. You just can't have anybody all of a sudden have a lot of money, because that equates to power. If it equates to power, they have a voice. If it equates to a voice, they can tip the scales. You can't be manipulated as easy, right? As easily. Can't do that. The system is effectively usurped. The price of Bitcoin is going down for entry of everybody else and everything else. That system is effectively, well, going to be used. It's going to be completely used. The method of that money exchange management system is going to be fully used. All of it. So what does that mean? That means in all markets, you're going to see a shift. And you're seeing that shift. And we spoke about this the other day. You're seeing a shift in all markets. They're going to attribute this to 1,000 different things. So let me give you something to watch for. I want you guys to watch for billionaires who are in trouble. Pressure is going to be put on the billionaires. This is a common practice to get them to move in specific directions. You're going to see pressure put on billionaires. Weird things are going to start popping up, right? Make no mistake, the folks behind this, right? They have the ability to shut everything down if they want to. They don't want to shut everything down, and they don't want you to go broke. They want you to love what they're about to give you. And it will not line up with what any financial advisor is going to tell you. But you're about to see billionaires have some pressure put on them. You're going to see it. When you see it, that'll be the last piece in this puzzle. Now, why would they do something like that? Believe it or not, that's for show. That's for you. When the public sees a billionaire under pressure, they start doing what? They start trusting certain mechanisms behind it, or they start fearing certain mechanisms behind it. And believe it or not, you start doing things differently with your money. Most of the articles you're about to read, right, they're going to be about how you can make it if, I hope you're hearing me on this, how you can make it if, take note, Christians, that the beast is going to cause everybody to take the mark of the beast. That's easy to do in an environment that has changed. The old system must be proven to be incompetent. Everybody you know and trust and respect in the old system, all that's going to change in less than 6 months. You will not love and respect those people. Everything is going to shift. You're going to see people shift with it, and you'll be able to say nothing. You won't. It's because they're not going to listen to you. They see a system now that's broken. They do. Right now they have Democrats and Republicans at war with one another. Soon they'll have the ideologies themselves on the table. They'll re-examine them. Then they're going to rewrite the books on what a Democrat and Republican is. And for the most part, people will buy it. Christians are going to buy it. They will then incorporate governance in with the Bible itself. They should be kept separate. The Holy Word of God should be kept separate from everything but an evil in this world. And it's going to incorporate things in with God's word. That should never be. Here's my stance on that. Nothing should be incorporated into God's word. Absolutely nothing. It should always be separate. Always be separate. God is a God of heaven and earth. Not heaven in China, not heaven in America, not heaven and Europe. No, heaven and earth. That's everything, not just one place. It's evil to start replacing what the Father has a heart for when men just want to do that. That's wrong. It's very wrong. The Holy Word is still holy, right? Shouldn't be tampered with. Anyway, this crypto system is part of a leg of the beast system, part of a leg, right? It gets the folks that nobody else can get. It incorporates them into the system. It does. It has intricacies, yes. Mechanisms, sure. But what you're seeing right now is the first step of that. Or I'll say the second big step. The leveling out of things. See, they want everybody in the system, and they're going to do it. Everybody's going to be a part of this system. Whether they want to or not, they're going to be a part of the system. It will become a new standard, period. Period. And you will not be able to buy or sell if you're not part of it. You won't. You'll have no credentials, no nothing. You won't be able to buy or sell, period. It also goes with the digital ID. That's absolute and to utter control. You guys do know that, don't you? Absolute. So as it turns out, we already live in a digital society. We already have a cashless society. You guys are aware of that, right? We are in a cashless society. We're in one right now. My goodness. Hey, you know what? Here at CoT, I'm going to have to start busting the myths. Some of these, I know things are popular. I know that folks do their best. But there's certain things out there that are just not true. They're not sound. And once your eyes are open to them, then you'll see. You can't see them yet, but you will. Many of those things that let me give you guys an example of what can't be seen, but is so simple, but it cannot be seen, right? In politics, a lot of people do not like the idea that an end was put. I'm not going to name the bill or anything, but an end was put to people of color in this nation, right? And other minority groups having any favored way to get into colleges. People were not happy about that. But let me share something with you. That came into effect a long time ago. This bill, this idea it came into effect a long time ago, when in fact there were people running this country who had enslaved an entire people, disassociated many others, and would allow people to have equal education, right? They didn't have equal education, and so when it came to learning, they had to go by different numbers to get those people into colleges, right? Well, times have changed. They have. In this country right now in America, despite popular belief in this country, people respect, for the most part, they respect hard work. They do. They respect hard work. That's great. But a lot of people wonder, why did they get rid of that? Now you're going to have less minorities in Harvard. You're going to have less minorities in Yale, places like that. But here's what people can't see. And all this started with a person who said, and this was a person who's they said they want to help people, and they said they would, if they could, they would just give money to the minority families or whoever needs it to do whatever they want so everybody could be happy. And I was just, I was kind of hearing this. And boy, they just missed the whole thing. Because, right, if you gave a person money who's not educated to do the right thing with money, what you do is you hurt that person. Because what will happen is that person will get the money, they'll misuse it, they won't put it towards meaningful things, and it all evaporates. Kind of like getting a tax check, right? You get your tax return, and you're young, and you don't know what to do with that money, and so you do just about everything. But then it's gone, and guess what? Your feelings are hurt, and you feel kind of bad because it's gone, right? Everybody knows how it is to have a lump of money and then it vanishes. Everybody knows what that feeling is like. Everybody knows how you scrutinize yourself when that happens. Well, without proper education in these systems, right? If you're not educated in these systems, how can you make a beneficial choice? You can't. So then giving money is not the answer. Fostering education is the answer. To teach a person how to walk in this world, to teach a person how to get themselves upright. Simple things like that. Because they've been throwing money at the issue for a long time. It doesn't work. If people could educate themselves for what's coming up, everything would change. If they continue to foster this attitude, just like a lot of Christians, don't take this the wrong way, but a lot of Christians will pray about things, right? They do. They pray about it, but they won't do anything. They pray about it. They say, but they won't do anything, right? If you're praying, you don't do anything. What's the use in praying if you're not going to do anything? That's what's being fostered in this world, which is the true reason why the world is starting to break down, because we have gotten used to, a lot of people have gotten used to categorizing responsibility. And when it's not their responsibility, they easily give it up, right, to somebody else or something else. And they won't do a thing about it when they have the ability to do it. Now, take note what I'm saying. If you have an ability to do something, go for it 100%. But what is your mind on? In all honesty, people are worried about failure, right? Aren't they worried about failure? Yes, they are. A lot of people won't do something because they're worried about failure. Why? Because that word carries a heavy consequence in society. If you fail, everybody's at risk, right? If you fail, that's the darkest hole you ever fell into, is what you feel like. That's what they're teaching. That's what's coming from these, from many different places, is to run away from failure. You know what the Lord taught us? You know what he taught us? Stop paying attention to failure. When you fall and you're in the process of doing something, get back up and keep going. So long as God gives you air to breathe and strength to get up, get up. Isn't that what he teaches us? He teaches us to say, yes, I see the obstacles. And you're going to have them. But they're going to make you stronger. Isn't that what the Lord said? We should glory in tribulation, knowing that tribulation, and then he named 5 different things. Correct? Isn't that correct? So instead of being frightened of failure and dodging it, we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to set our eyes on a path and forget about the failure to start walking. We handle failure as it comes. It is normal. They're not telling people that failure is normal. It is normal. People have breakdowns when they start failing, which is very foolish. But that's how we are. It's what we become. And so what does a person do? They have designed life to put these nice little areas up to say, hey, if you go sit in this area of life, you don't have to worry about failure. Just make sure you don't go outside of this area. So listen to what I'm saying. So when people get assisted, that's an umbrella, and they stay in that area where they're getting assisted, afraid to move beyond it. Even the systems, because don't they say if your income is higher than this, you can no longer have this benefit? Or if your income is higher than this, you can no longer have that benefit. And so what happens is people grow up afraid to leave the umbrella of a protected area. So they'll never make over a certain amount. Why? Because if they do, nobody's going to help them. Do you guys see where I'm coming from? If they get in under this umbrella over here, and they happen to be educated beyond this point, if they get educated beyond a specific point and they have conversations with people around them, they're going to put them out of the umbrella, so they can't do that either. That's what the world teaches. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been in our systems since what, the 70s? Since the 70s. When I was growing up, people worked hard. Nobody was looking for anybody to hand them anything, no matter what color they were. That's a fact. We knew there were hard times, but guess what? We said, bring them on. Bring on failure. Come on, bring it on. Let's see why people are failing. And that's when people had a heart for each other. The adversary is the one that stepped in. He steps in, he interferes with policy and culture and everything else. He's provided these protected areas for people in life of all types of things. And he tells them, you can live life without the worry or risk of failure if you just stay here and comply with everything. Isn't that how most things, even people, I know a doctor who does the same thing. I know some millionaires who do the exact same thing, and they're frightened of getting out from underneath these umbrellas, these areas of protection. Sometimes, most often, they can't do the right thing. But they'll lie, cheat, rob, and steal to stay under that umbrella. That's a degradation of life itself. Now, when you get caught, whole entire people doing this thing, you get all sorts of peoples doing these things from all categories of life, you got a problem. That's when society is upside down. That's when evil takes full control, like we are now. Right now. Do you know a lot of people say, well, I'd like to see things change, but one voice cannot make a change. Isn't that what they say? Let me ask you guys something. Have you guys not heard me say specific things here on CoT, and then they addressed it on public media 2 or 3 days later, the exact thing, as though they were trying to give a rebuttal to what it was saying before it gained momentum? You guys ever see that? People write in a lot. They do. It almost never fails, right? I don't believe I'm the only one that gets what the Lord gives me. But you better believe there are folks out there guarding. They're guarding the fence on these umbrellas, and they're from all walks of life. And when you start talking against people staying underneath these protected areas, here they come. Here they come to send a rebuttal to what you're saying. It's kind of like President Trump said the other day, right? He said, well, you're not going to have to vote Christians, right? That's what he said. And then all of a sudden, all these people pop out. Well, President Trump What did you say? Oh, and somebody asked me, somebody asked me a few minutes ago, they said, why do I refer to Trump as President Trump? He's not the president. Well, it's decorum. It's simple decorum. That's all. Anybody who's ever been a president, it is common decorum to call somebody by their title like that. So, Mr. President. Yes, he's a ex-president, but he's still president. That's decorum. That's all. That's all that is. That's a courtesy. Common courtesy. And as the Lord teaches us, we will have a return on what we give ourselves. If we treat someone with respect, when we want respect or desire less confusion, this, that, and the other, right? Treat others with that same respect. It's not based on a like or dislike. It's simple decorum, a courtesy, a recognition of what, somebody did that still carries that title, that's all. Because I'll tell you something, I would not sit in that chair. No way in the world would I ever be in that position, right? So then, I leave the floor to whomever takes that seat. Back to the conversation. Do you guys see that about the umbrellas? When evil takes over, because the people are hiding within these controlled areas of life. Now, nobody's making them stay there, is my point. No one is making people stay in these protected areas of life. But you get one person there and they have children. That's all those kids know. Then they grow up in it. They start living their lives to stay in the protected area. Do you guys see where I'm going? They don't know any better. And then when they have children, that's all that child knows is the protected area. And that becomes their life. And everything else becomes this evil, uncertain place. See, some of you may not know this, but there are people here in this country, and the border of their entire world is their street. Do you know that? They're frightened to go off their street. There are some frightened to leave their neighborhood. There are some frightened to leave their towns. Why? Because we live with a mentality where failure has become the monster of the day. They teach us in school, through games, competition, through all sorts of things, that failure is bad. As a Christian, we should all know that failure is a sign of growth. You will never grow unless you fail. And when you fail, it means you tried something and you're about to grow. Failure is a part of your path. I mean to fall flat on your face. It's also a sign of wisdom. Somebody who has not failed, I'll never follow a person who has not failed. I'll never, ever even seek to follow a person unless they have dealt with a strong public rebuke. Because anything they have not handled, Satan has in his tool belt, and he can pull it out at any time and cause that person to really fall. Because the later you get in life, the older you get in life, you're not able to handle falls that well the older you get. And if a person has not endured failure, what's going to happen when they get, 1,000 people behind them? And they're walking along and the guy never speaks about failure. And then all of a sudden he falls. You know what's going to happen? Everybody else behind him is going to fall too. He's not going to know too much either. We're soldiers, right? I never promoted anybody who didn't fall into who didn't get a strong reprimand in their file. I've seen squeaky clean people, and they fumble with the ball when needed. But you get a person in there who's had a good reprimand. They know how to recover. And that's key. When somebody does not know how to recover, the game is over when they fall. When somebody knows how to recover, when they can reconstruct their lives, different story. They know what they're doing. They know what they're about to face, and they're willing to face it. As Christians, too many Christians have ran away from things. That's not the mentality our Lord teaches. We're not to run away. We are to face. You know, and in fact, Jesus says, when you right, run into this issue, when you see Satan in this issue, when your enemies do this, and when your enemies do that, doesn't he? All the time. So in your walk with the Lord, you're going to run into things. There's a big umbrella. It's being put up right now. Some of your own families may run to it. You may be in a moment where you're not very coherent. You might run to it, but it's coming. All of you out there, all of you who have had issues in life, and you say, oh, all I want is a break. I wish the Lord would just grant me a break, just a financial break, just this. You might run to it. You might run to it. All of you who have aches and pains, you've had no healing yet, you want your doctors to do something, you might run to it. All of you who are tired, you might run to it. Listen to what I'm telling you. Because under this umbrella, there's going to be treatment, unbelievable treatment. There's going to be finances and opportunity, unbelievable finances and opportunity. And all of it is going to be there just for you, for the taking. How many Christians do you know? Right? How many Christians do you know who they're just financially not well, and it's so bad that you know for a fact if somebody popped up and would hand them something, they wouldn't care who it came from, they would take it. If somebody were going to hand them $10,000, they would take it. They wouldn't care who it came from. How many Christians do you know that would take it? If I'll put it this way, if you were walking along in a store and $20,000 was on the ground, and you picked that money up, would you keep it? What about a $100 bill? Would you keep it? If everybody left the store and it was a $100 bill in an aisle, you were the only one in the store, you and one more at the cash register, would you keep that $100 bill? If you couldn't give it to anybody, would you keep it? If you were running, doing a jog or outside and a $100 bill blew and flew in your face, would you keep it? Would you keep it? I'm wondering how many people would go and desperately find out who it belonged to. Here's a big one. If you had one meal left in your house, one meal, and it was you, right? And then some stranger walks in they're well fed, they're bigger than you, but they were hungry. Would you give that person your last meal? Ooh, that's a big one, isn't it? Isn't that a big one? Would you give that big person who eats too much and they're well fed, would you give them your last meal? Somebody says, I would keep it. Well, I'd have to ask first. I'm not going to give somebody a meal like that. I'd have to ask. The truth is this. All of us would have to think about that. If you know what hunger is, right? You can make that decision right now, but if you don't know what hunger is, you cannot make that decision. If you have gone without food for 30 days, you can make that decision right now. If you have not gone without food for 30 days, you cannot make that decision. You can't. You cannot. You can't make it. You need to know what starvation is first. You need to know what it feels like to have your muscles retract on you because your body starts feeding off your muscle tissue. That's what you have to feel. You have to be cramped up in your whole body for about 10 days first, where you can't walk. You have to have that swelling stomach that swells up 3 to 4 times bigger than what it is right now, right? When your sugar's all out of whack from not eating and your body starts feeding on itself. When you go through that, you can make a decision right now. If you've not gone through that, you don't know what you'll do. You don't know. You can only pray that you'll do the right thing, but you don't know what you'll do. You don't know. I'll tell you right now, when you're hungry, everything starts looking good and everything God made smells good. I'll tell you that right now. You'll eat things that'll make a goat puke. You will. Your body will do strange, strange things. My point is this. None of us have gone through a time where the beast was in power. Not one of us. The truth is, we don't know what we're going to do in response to certain offers. We don't know. What we can do is prepare as best we can with the knowledge the Lord gave us. Beyond that, what can you do? You've not gone through a time with the Antichrist. I know some of you may say you came close, but you have not. These are real times we're living in. You're watching the financial system change right in front of your face. Not some financial collapse. You're about to see what it's going to be. People are not going to be broke and destitute like you think. Listen, if the enemy, if the devil, if all he wanted was to kill everybody, what an idiot he is. Well, how dumb is that? Do you guys know about the fallen angels? The real story of the fallen angels. That'll be according to Enoch and Jasher, right? And all those books. Do you know about the giants? Do you know that God pit them one against the other, much like he did in the times of the Syrian, in the times of Babylon's highest rule? Remember King Darius and King Nebuchadnezzar, of course, and all these different guys? Fallen angels. They came to this earth, took wives. They had children. The children grew up to be kings. The children grew up to be rulers, scientists, doctors in this world. Great men of renown. When the judgment time came, because they tried to approach Enoch, and I wouldn't want to be Enoch nobody could ever pay me to be anything close to Enoch. Do you know what do you know what he was born for? Enoch was born for a very specific cause. Nope, Enoch had a hard job. Anyway, when God banished the fallen for what they did, and their punishment was so severe, because of what their children did and because of what they did. First of all, they left their first estate, their first habitation for this one. They desecrated this one, and they killed off humanity. But not how you think. They didn't kill off humanity with swords. The fallen angels killed humanity because they taught humanity at a very young age things that they should have learned over time. And what did they do with their newfound knowledge? They killed each other. Humans desecrated their own bodies. The sin multiplied on the earth like never before. They learned war. They almost destroyed the planet as they were fighting each other. They were mining. They were creating. They were destroying. They were experimenting. They knew a lot of dark sentences. They knew how to conjure demonic entities as well as bind them for usage and work. They knew how to curse people spiritually and naturally. They knew everything they shouldn't have known at that young age. When you're young, knowledge causes you to sin. As you get older, God will give you what you can handle so that you don't enter into sin. Man was overwhelmed with knowledge. Overwhelmed. And what did God say? God said the blood of the earth was crying out from innocent men dying from what their own brothers and mothers and daddies killing them off. And then the giants, real giants in the earth, they consumed all their acquisitions, even of the earth. They mined the earth clean. Nothing was left in the earth. You couldn't even grow anything on the lands. They were mean. They wanted to fight. They wanted competition. They ruled man with a cruel hand. They did all that. Prostitution, slavery. Do you know the children of the fallen did all of that? Do you know that? The bones are sitting in every single museum out there. Those bones are not millions of years old. Those bones are a product of the fallen. And they're not all what you think they are. You could say that museums hide the bones of very real things by making you believe they're dinosaurs. Not dinosaurs with vocal cords. At any rate, they corrupted the earth. But they corrupted mankind. So their punishment was severe. Why? Because God loves his creation. And the children of the fallen angels, their brutality was both natural and spiritual. So the Lord said, I'm going to have to restart the whole thing. I know what the Sumerian tales say. Do you not know that the Sumerian tales, we already went through the age thing, but the correct date is 4,000 years. Well, Cain departed to go into a city, and the Bible says that Cain built a city. That was 3,900 years ago. The same time the Sumerian culture was there, so was Cain. Isn't that strange? That's odd, don't you think? The same things. Now, if you start reading in other books, Hebrew books, you can start reading about Cain. It's funny how he denoted the same exact pantheon that the Sumerians did. Funny. It's even funnier how people had a habit of documenting everything. See, I've seen some of the depictions of Enki and Enlil and Herzog and all these different things. And even in their pictures, you can see a telltale sign of something. The fallen state of these guys. See, the Bible describes how an angel looks. It does. Very good, too. You don't have to guess about that. It describes them. They don't look like us. Some have 4 wings. Some have 6 wings. Some are fiery with the 6 wings. Some, they look like they're formed of crystal. Some look like gods. The Sumerians have that same story, except their point of view is from the fallen point of view. Isn't that funny? The fallen point of view. Chinese history has a story about the flood. All these societies have stories about the flood, not from God's point of view, but trying to save their own skins. And when you know it, these things came around and tried to save. That's why in Genesis 6 you read that Nephilim were in the earth before the flood and also after that. Also after that. Isn't that something? That's all in there. It's just that most people have not. I didn't start out reading all these different books. I was pushed into it. I saw some things with my eyes first, which scared the peanuts out of my M&Ms. It changed me forever, right? I wasn't one of those people who I didn't think about angels and all that stuff. I didn't think about that. Thank you, United States. Thrust me into that stuff. I had no choice. But let's just say that the family version is the roughest text you can read. That's the family version. In real life, you don't want to even see any of that. You may think you do, but you do not. You don't. At any rate, they corrupted everything. Everything. The fallen did that. And then, after all of that, after they were gone, mankind is reborn again out of one family. When mankind was reborn, the whole cycle starts over again, but Satan did it differently this. You see, at first, he convinced some angels. In the book of Enoch, it tells you who convinced them to do it, to go into that pact on Mount Hermon. It tells you who convinced them. This same angel was in the garden. In the world right now, the same thing is happening. The exact same thing is happening, just at a different level. And now that their master is coming forward, you're going to see them rise everywhere. Now, but listen to me. See, people back in 2010, they were on it. I used to hear people say, yes, if a leader comes forward and everybody likes that leader, watch out. Right? They're going to be calling on this leader to solve everything. You better watch out. Isn't that what they said? That's what they said. That's what they said. Well, he's coming. He's coming. But they're going to have the kingdom set up before he comes. And what you see happening right now is the first leg in that system. This is the real deal they're setting up for the mark of the beast. And one thing about the mark of the beast is this. You're not going to want to deny it unless a person is faithful to Christ. But the Bible gives us a hint. It says that the person who take the mark, they worshipped the beast, and they also worshipped Satan. How do you worship Satan? Can somebody tell me how you worship Satan? How do you worship him? You love what he did. You love what he creates in the earth right now. You love what he built. You love his benefits. And see what this means is, listen, there are benefits right now in the world. See, I know this from my own life. I know what my father's involved in because he told us what he was involved in. Now, nobody's not involved in. He is not involved with most of this stuff in the world. He's not. And when a system will not honor the Son of the living God, something is wrong with it. God, why would God have something absent his son? He's not. He's not. But you have a lot of things in this world that will not acknowledge the Son. And how do you acknowledge Jesus Christ? How do you acknowledge him? You cannot say, well, yep, I believe in Christ. That's not acknowledging him. To acknowledge Jesus is to turn the right cheek also. To acknowledge Jesus is that somebody asks for your cloak, you give them everything. They ask of you to go with them 1 mile, you go with them 2. To acknowledge the Son of the living God is to obey the living God's word. To obey God's word. To honor him daily with your life. Not once a week. Certainly not once a year. Every day. How can it not be a passion of somebody's life to honor the Savior who died for them? Wouldn't that be an everyday thing? Don't we think of our children every day? Don't we think of our spouses every day? We think of our dogs every day. You mean to tell me that stuff is above Christ in our lives? We think of that, but we won't think of him? I tell you, this is a culture that if you follow the culture, it doesn't matter who in the culture, you follow this culture, you're not going to be thinking about Christ. Even in some of these churches, you're not thinking about Christ. I heard a sermon in a church. I didn't even hear the word Jesus. How is that possible? It was like a big self-help conference is what that was. And it's getting worse. They're getting ready. People are primed. They are. Because as we discussed the other day, Satan does not want to kill you. No, he wants to do just as he did in the past. He corrupted everybody. He wants you to turn against the Messiah. See, if Satan kills you, you're going to be with the Messiah. He loses. The only way Satan can ever win in his sick game is to get you to disobey Christ. That's how he wins. Every time we disobey, who are we in agreement with? See, to not be in agreement with Jesus means you're in agreement with something else already. To doubt Jesus means you believe in something else already. That means there is no fence. A person thinks they're sitting on the fence the entire time they're sitting on the fence. They're saying what? No. They're saying no to who? Christ. Can't you see the game being played here? That's why nobody could see. It's very difficult for people to see what's happening financially because they're buying the narrative of this world. I'm not buying the narrative of the world. Who in the world can just come up and say, who can come up and say, well, guys, crypto's about to tank. It's going to go back to July levels. Who can do that? Who can do that? A man cannot do that. No, I'm sorry. Just the average person can't do that because they didn't do that. They did not do that. They didn't do that. They withheld it. Most people were not even talking about crypto. Some of you asked, well, Mike, why are you mentioning crypto all of a sudden? You asked me that at that last month. Remember that? Last month, why is Mike talking about crypto? He's sneaking his crypto conversation in on us. He must have crypto. No, he doesn't have crypto, so why is he talking about crypto? But I told you, you're going to see. They're going to use it. Satan wants you to turn against the Messiah. He's doing it in many different ways. Somebody asked a very good question tonight. They were not about crypto, but they said, if the enemy wanted to attack America, speaking about other physical enemies, he said, do we have enough, ships and do we have enough troops to fend them off? I said, well, they're not coming by boats or anything. That's not how they're coming. They'll come from within, or they'll come by munitions by way of the air. But they don't need munitions. They're already here. They're already here. Here's the problem. There's a book on infiltrating your enemy. Do you know what's happening to us is in that book? Listen to this. This will get you. I'm gonna summarize it. To infiltrate your enemy, right? You have to divide them. You have to turn them against their own government and ideologies of their own land. That's required. All that's required. So you have to work really hard to turn them one against the other, any way you can. Then you have to turn them against their own leadership. Once you turn them against their leadership, you have to compromise that leadership, but also you have to have them tear down their own ideologies. Once you can make a country do this, they will effectively assist you, right? Because after they accomplish those 3 steps, they'll come in and usurp all authorities. Do you not know all those things have happened in America already? Oh, and by the way, if they're really good, if they're successful at what they're doing, no one will ever question any of the 3. There are actually 5 whole steps, but the 3 are important. I find those just key. That's textbook. And it's happening right here in this nation. And you can't even speak up about it. They can't even speak up about it in Congress. That's how bad it is. There's spies in Congress that if they speak up about it, they're going to lose their lives. They will. And you know what that tells me? Now I'm going to be the conspiracy theorist. That means people have been promised a position. That means people in our government have been promised a position. The Bible says, study to be quiet. That's what it says, study to be quiet. One day soon, I hope, probably in about 4 months, if we're all living well, I can speak to you all about this infiltration. I cannot do it now. Nobody would ever come back to CoT, so I can't do it now. No, it's not about any specific person. Not about a man. It's not about a woman. Not about any specific person, but I cannot do it now. Because people are so heavily intertwined into politics that they get genuinely offended by hearing anything against their favorite side. If I were to say something against Democrats, no Democrat will come back. If I say something against Republicans, no Republican will come back. They're shooting each other out there in the streets over Democrat and Republican ideologies. Christians are fighting each other over some man-made nonsense. You believe that? Can you believe a day would ever come? A day would ever come where believers, those who say they believe in Christ, would kill each other over some man-made ideologies. You tell me the enemy has not won in this land? When Christians cannot openly talk about these systems in the world, the war is almost over. And according to the word of God, the beast is going to win for a season. Period. Despite what anybody says, he will have rule. God will give him power for a duration of time, and no one is going to stop the beast having that power. In the Bible, it says there must come a falling away first, and then that man of perdition is going to be revealed. People are falling away left and right. Their love is waxing colder and colder, which means they don't have love anymore. Why? Because iniquity abounds. In the Bible, it says the love of many is going to wax colder and colder because iniquity abounds. That means they perceive evil just like now. People in America, the Republicans see the Democrats as evil. The Democrats see the Republicans as evil. Who did that to them? Who did that to you? How could a power come in this nation, utilize the system we live under, turn it against one side against the other, so much so that even in the church of the living God, you can't discuss it? He won that battle right under people's noses, just like this crypto thing. No one is going to stop it because hardly anybody can see it. And those who can see it, they want a piece of it. They're not trying to stop it. They want to use their favorite quote. Make sure you're on the right side of history. Isn't that their favorite quote? I'm not going to make sure I'm on the right side of anybody's history. I'm going to make sure I'm on the side of the Messiah. Here's where I give you a caution. For all those deeply embedded in the world, the Lord gave you a warning. He said, come out of her, my people. Be not partakers of her sins, that you won't partake of her plagues. Now that word sins is generalized. That means there's a group of words where that word sins is used. People are sold out to the ideologies of other men about these nations. Do you know what that means? Listen to me. That means you're sold out to somebody else's idea about this nation to the point where you would kill another person to preserve the idea of another person. Are you kidding me? That means people are not fighting for themselves. No, that's not what they're fighting for. They're fighting for an idea that was corrupted, swapped, and switched many years ago. Everything has changed. Republicans, in truth, you're fighting for Democrat ideas, and Democrats, you're fighting for Republican ideas. Yes, you are. You might go back in your history and see it for yourselves. See it for yourselves. See how they just swap that up on people. People don't know. But you're still bound to the core of it. They've even reassigned the people responsible for some of the darkest times in America. They're being lifted up. I'll tell you something. You might want to choose your father's way. I'm appreciative of this land the Lord put me in, but my loyalty is my way of love to the people. I will not fight the people over someone's ideology. Do you hear me? Democracy, that practice of democracy and to fight for democracy is to fight for your freedom. I'm not fighting for dirt. Do you see that fine line? See that fine line? The fine line. Do you know what they're teaching people to do? Fight for the dirt and kill anybody who gets in the way. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Oh, well, 5G, They're going to come in and say everything. It's Monday. Now watch, listen to me, folks. After people are surprised because they don't know what's happening in the markets, they're going to come up with all sorts of stories, and then they're going to spring it. Listen to me carefully. They're going to start at a zero base, and it's going to go right back up to where it was. But this time you're going to have brand new investors. Do you guys hear me? Everything else was liquidated, and it's being liquidated. And when it gets down to the bottom, it's going to recoil like a spring that's been pressed for many years under high pressure. They're going to let it go. Brand new folks are going to put in on this. See, because people are scared of the market right now. So what do? They withhold. But if you're in the know, you're waiting for a signal. When they get that signal, they're going to put in, it's going to go back up. Now, take Bitcoin, for example. Bitcoin was what, at 70,000 in the good days, right? So if it went all the way back down, we're only, but in a time frame where hardly anybody could see it, say for a day, half a day, a couple hours, whatever, then the people who are notified, they put their money into it. Then they let the thing go. Those who were selling, they stopped selling. Everybody puts money back in. That number is going to jump up so high. But guess what? Only those people who had the signal are going to be the rich ones in there. And all the other people who didn't get any signal, they're going to be forced out. So the millionaires that were millionaires last Monday, come this Tuesday, are not going to be the millionaires anymore. The ones who received the signal are going to be the millionaires. And it just so happens the ones who received the signal are the ones they want to receive the signal. Same thing is happening in the markets. A lot of you guys may not have known this, but there's been some serious buys in the market over the last 2 months that have made no sense. Most people look at a Fibonacci sequence and this, that, and the other. But if you start looking at who has been buying and who has been forced out and who has been, the average person has been forced out, liquidated. A handful of corporations have been buying up everything. And other people have been acting in accordance with a few, you could say. Are you kidding me? That's why I don't mess in the markets. For number one, I have an eye for it, right? And when the markets go low and people start losing their money, I will not be the one guilty or feeling that way. See, I don't like people to lose, so I'm already compromised. If I win in the markets, some other people have lost their everything. I can't be a part of it. Me personally, I can't be a part of that. Other people can say, well, that's their fault. I just can't do that because I can see. Now, if I was blind to the markets, if I couldn't see the way I see, right, fine, I'd do it. But for some reason, I can see where those numbers are going. For some reason. So I don't do that. I can't do that. Can't do it. I did that before for about 3 years. Long time ago in the markets for about 3 years. I went from a simple, military salary to unbelievable numbers in less than a week. And continued. I'm not doing that. I started thinking about people who lose everything. Those who are desperate, right? That's why I don't like things like, I don't even like bingo. Do you know why? Because somebody needs to win the money, but that's not the way to get it. That's why I don't like bingo. I don't like anything like that that would suck a person in and cause them to make bitter mistakes. I don't like that. I do not. And that means I certainly do not like anything about Vegas. I'm so old school, I can't go to school. Too many traditionalist ideas that I don't want to take from folks. I can't do that. I still have a soul. But I encourage everybody else to see what's happening, because the less you're invested, fully invested into the dream of the corporations, the more your eyes are going to open to what's actually happening. And plus, I don't want you guys to be victims of some of this stuff happening. You're victors, not victims. So if you follow Christ carefully, and if we can continue to encourage each other, we all become immune to what we were not immune to before. Because you're seeing the main highway to a control mechanism of the beast system that is massive. It is massive. And you're not talking about 2 years to build this either. You're not even talking about 1 year. You're not talking about 1 year. Hope you understand that. We're not talking about something that's going to take, a year. That's not what we're talking about. Most of what's happening right now is close to immediate. But a lot of people won't understand it. Somebody said it a trap. Yeah, like a bear trap. Just like a bear trap. Be wise, guys. Be wise. Try not to be lured into anything and be led into all things. That's all you have to remember. If something pulls you towards it, right, and it's outside of Christ, recognize that right away. Recognize when something is pulling you in emotionally, when something is pulling you in by way of other means, and it has nothing to do with Christ. Christ will instruct you every single time. Your emotions will lie to you a lot. And many of you have found this out, that your emotions lie. And the reason why your emotions lie is because they can be touched by spirits. They can be touched by different spirits all day long. Just remember, they can lie to you. Your emotions are almost like an antenna. And some of your emotions are not yours. Just because you feel sad doesn't mean you're sad. No. Your emotions are just like an antenna, and they can lie to you. That's why I don't go by gut feelings and intuitions and little things sitting on my shoulders. I don't do that. I have to go by instruction, right? Now, if you're not mindful of it, you'll fall for the trick every single time. But if you're mindful of it, you can literally put your emotions in check and say, okay, I feel this way, but let's see what happens. And then you'll be shocked to know that your emotions lied once again. Now, on the contrary, when God gives you instruction, that's not an emotion. It's a type of sight you develop by desiring to hear. And all too often, he'll give you instruction in things you don't want to do. Also, things you're uncomfortable in doing. But when you do them, your faith grows, your trust grows, your confidence grows. And if there's one thing we're going to need in the upcoming months, is confidence in Christ. Confidence. And lots of trust. Right? Lots of trust. It's going to matter. Anyway, keep everything tight. I know a lot of people are going to have lots of interpretations tomorrow. But this, I'm going to call it the simple happening. I know it's going to be blown up. I know that people are going to hit the internet and do their little view thing. I know they're going to do that. And everybody's going to watch what they're saying. But folks, just have an understanding. I told you what they're going to do. That's why I told you what I told you a couple days ago. So that at least you would say, well, he knows a little bit, maybe, possibly, about what he's talking about. Somebody says an update on Israel, all things are in place. They had a meeting today to see, right? They have to carefully line some things out, but all things are in place. The current president does not like preemptive strikes. But Israel is leading the charge on this one. Okay? Israel is. Whatever Israel decides is in their best interest, they're going to do. They're going to do. But everything is in place. Everything is in place. So, they're good to go. Good to go. Somebody said Nancy Pelosi says Biden needs to be on Mount Rushmore. Well, they're just protecting the Democratic Party because the Democrats believe that Trump and J.D. Vance and all those people are, going to destroy the country. Then the Republicans believe that the Democrats are going to destroy the country. Let me tell you guys something. Nothing has destroyed the country because the country being destroyed or not depends upon you, not them. They can do whatever they want to do. But I'm telling you right now that God is the one that will permit or not permit this country to be destroyed. And he already told us something. What did he tell us? What did he tell us? It's on us. It's according to us. I can assure you of this, though. If we start giving in to the politicians and the politics of the nation we reside in, God put you in this country. He put you in this world. You're not of this world. You're in this world. You're purposed in this world, but you're not of this world. This is not your home. It's not. All of you are passers-by, and you will leave one day. You're in this world to make a difference for the kingdom of the living God. You're not in this world to advance the causes of flesh, which is what these guys operate by. They operate by flesh. You operate by the Holy Spirit. You're here for the cause of your Father in heaven. His power works through you. You are the moving parts of his body. Right? You are. You're the hands, you're the feet, the torso. You are the moving parts of his body. The power of the living God will come through you. The word of the living God will come through you. That's why it's important that we obey. The work of the kingdom of our Father is going to be complete, with or without a person's participation. But you have an opportunity because you believe, you're purposed, and you're critical to everything that happens on this planet, much more than the dictates of this nation, but for mankind. This nation is where you start. Your household is where you start. It's no mistake you're in your household. Your past is not a mistake. Your past equips you for what you need to do now. By the way, your adversary is doing everything he can do to get you not to obey. It's up to you what you follow. But I hope that you know your adversary desires that you question Yeshua HaMashiach, that you doubt the word of the living God, that you ultimately reject Jesus of Nazareth. He wants you to continue to operate in flesh and disobey the living God. As a consequence, our Father said we will see the world just like it is. When his children say within themselves, God will not do good nor evil. You know what that is? That's when people say, yeah, there is a God, but he's not in this stuff we're doing. Are they saying that now? Don't they live like that now? I didn't want to say it, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. If something weird happens in this nation by way of a natural disaster that should not take place, where it takes place is important. Somebody says Bitcoin is at 53,895. Yeah, I would suspect Bitcoin by morning time probably down at 51.49, somewhere around 49,000. $53 seems to me to be too high for what they're trying to do. And yes, that means I looked into their next moves too. But 53 is a bit high. Needs to be down to about anywhere between 50 and 49 or 40, 49.1. Somewhere between there. 50 and 49.1 seems optimal. That's my guess. That's a guess. Right? 50,000 to 49.1. If it's aggressive and they want to put all of retail in there, right, with the CDBC and digital ID, if they put both those projects in there, they're going to flatline everything down to a scalable number so they can reset the whole thing. See, once you reset everything, many accounts are liquidated, right? That means everybody who knows about it has an opportunity for entry. And when that happens, well, could Bitcoin triple before December? I can almost guarantee you. After the entries go in, Bitcoin is going up to about 90. Now, listen, that's my analysis from the bushes. Okay, I'm not your financial advisor. I have to say that because people will turn around and sue you. I don't want you guys being mad at me. If I were you, right? Just let things cool off. But somebody says, Lord, in 53, yes. If I'm not mistaken, you guys that are, geniuses with crypto, in 53, 4 to 6 as a resistance point. It's going to break that resistance point. There are going to be nations that help do that because they're going to spend about $600 million. Remember, crypto has a set amount that you can take out every 7 days. So there's a cycle method to that, right? They're going to meet that cycle by timing. If you can catch on to the timing, you'll know the cycle. And then it will rotate from country to country. It will be drawn down. But I'm telling you now, once it's drawn down, I can see it in my mind's eye. People fall asleep and they wake up and say, wait a minute. My investment has turned into 1 penny. What? Actually, this morning I woke up. This is no joke. This morning I woke up and I looked. I could, how sometimes you can, when you're waking up, you can see weird things, right? I'm looking at these charts and somebody was looking at a computer, and on that computer, the time before, it's almost like I could perceive the time before it was 0.28, right? 0.28. When they woke up that morning, it was 0.028. And it went from 0.028 to 0.01. 0.01. So if that helps, hey. So that's like, that's terrible if it drops that much. So from 0.023 to 0.01, that's or 0.001, I'm sorry, 0.001, that's a drop of drops, right? It works out by a ratio. I use that in a ratio. And so, yeah, things are going to drop a little bit more. But this is that first working component in the system of the beast. Everything is tokenized, is appointed to be tokenized, will be tokenized. And we're here. We're living in the days where those things we have read about are coming. And it's going to be very difficult for people, right, to let go of their newfound finances. That's going to be one of the hardest things, is for a person who never had anything to finally have something, to have some income, to have this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden they say, well, if you want to keep it, you have to, you have to comply with all of this. If you keep it, you have to comply with the mark of the beast. It's going to be very difficult, right? Very difficult. I say that about a weird natural disaster. I want you guys to keep your eyes open for it. Because my personal opinion is people are misnaming these disasters. You don't think our Father is involved in what hits these places? He's absolutely involved. And if you look at every place that accumulates these natural disasters, it's a hint. It's a message. It's a warning. It really is. And if people would listen, they'd have less frustration going forward. See, the truth is you don't have to be like in the movies and lose it all. You don't have to lose it all. But if that's the only way to get a person to save their soul, then so be it. Your Father loves you. And when it comes to your soul, there's nothing off the table. Because he wants you all the way home. And if something is in your way, he will remove it. Because he wants you all the way home intact. Remember that. So long as you love him and believe in him, he loves you too, and he wants you all the way home. So long as you continue to pray for help, he will help. And all too often, we don't know that thing we're holding so close is killing us. And it really takes him to remove it for us. He does it his way. Somebody said, I think they can incorporate Bitcoin in biologics. They don't need to. People have already accepted something else. Right now, without mentioning it, you guys are not opposed to it. And we'll start going over those things this week. We have to do some real preparations for the mark. I don't want to say too much tonight about that because it would just kind of, go against my theme that we have coming up this week. But I told you guys we're going to have to start making real preparations. Not popular ones, real ones. It's a big difference. And I already told you I'm going to give you everything I can. It's not easy. It's not. And you guys that are doing the same thing I'm doing, right, speaking to other people, don't follow after my model. Don't do it. I do things this way so that I'm always in a certain position with the Lord. I have to be careful of what comes into my life. I have to be careful of everything. Because if the well dries upon me, I have nothing to give you. Right? So I'm not going to risk the well drying up. Which makes it hard, makes it very rough. It does. It's a daily struggle. But it's worth that struggle. It is. For me, it is. Now, if the Lord gave you guys something else, go for it. Do your best at it. Just be upright, especially in this environment. Be upright in it. Somebody said, I don't get any of the money stuff. Think of it as the mark, right? It is part of the mark. It is part of the system of the mark of the beast. So it's okay if you don't get the money stuff. That's okay. That's all right. I have no investment in it, so I can get in there and rip it apart and everything else. But folks who have an investment in it, they look at things very carefully. They do. Just take note of something, everybody, that at some point you will not be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark. I know I'm not taking the mark. I've proven that with small things along the way already. I won't even take offers to alter what the Lord gives me for CoT. Oh, some guy last week wrote, he says, hey, if you do so and so, we'll support you, but if you don't, we're gonna work against you. I get those all the time. But that's how it works. To say no, you guys think I could easily say no. I'll tell you something. The only thing that keeps me afloat now is my credentials. And from time to time, I'll accept certain requests that come in from this nation. That's the only thing that keeps me afloat. There are many decisions, right? I'm deciding now because I have to go away for one. If I take this next one, I'll be gone for a few months, out of contact with everybody. Those are big decisions, don't you think? Those are big ones. But that's just my life. It is. Just my life. We'll see how that goes. Folks, listen, I'm not going to hold you up. You guys have a decent night. Now you know. Now you know what they're doing. This is the one of the real components of the kingdom of the beast. Real, not some fake component. This is the real deal. Real deal. Folks, God bless and keep you. I'm going to see you next time right here at CoT. God bless and you all have a peaceful night. And all you guys with crypto out there, be led of the Lord for what you do. Right? The one thing I learned a long time ago with markets and things like that, don't let your emotions lead what you're doing. You're going to have to use your mind in this one. Okay? Don't be led by your emotions. You're going to be all over the place. Don't do that. And if you don't understand it, don't get into it. You hear me? Don't get into anything you have no experience with. Remember that. If you don't have experience, you get into it, you're gambling. And gambling, you belong to Christ. So if you gamble, you're going to lose. Okay? You're going to lose. You're just throwing money away. Don't do that. Understand what you're doing. Right? Whatever you do. God bless and keep all of you. I'm going to see you next time right here at CoT. Oh, and the player and everything is just going to go bloop. No air, no anything. If anything else pops up, though, guys, you'll find me on channel 0. I'm going to leave that running just in case I have to pop back. But God bless you guys. I'll see you next time.